Hi there, how are you all doing? Seems ages since I've seen my friends at West Linton Primary, pupils and teachers. We were supposed to be together at Easter time. It seems a long time ago now, but we were unable to do that, and most of us have been stuck at home, seeing only the people we live with, unless it's been on screen. Some of us learning how to do YouTube and learning how to do Zoom and learning lots of new things, even though we miss our families and miss our friends. So we're all a wee bit anxious and wondering when we will be able to get outside again and get back to normal, whatever normal might be in the future. When I was speaking to your head teacher, we chatted about stories and assemblies, and I missed being among you, and we just said it'd be nice to have a story. And so I thought I would tell you a story, and I hope you think it's a good story. It's one of my favourites, and you can see from the pictures behind me, it is a story about a wee caterpillar, a caterpillar called George. George the caterpillar just lived in the cabbage patch with lots of other caterpillars. And of course, the person who owned the cabbage patch wasn't that keen on caterpillars being there. But George was quite content, and he was actually a very nice gardener, didn't use any nasty insecticide or anything. Just let the caterpillars munch away on some of the cabbages that he didn't want. He had too many cabbages, so it was okay. But George found it a bit strange because as time went on, he was quite content, but he began to hear his brothers and sisters and family talk about a thing called a butterfly. And George found this odd because George had never seen a butterfly, and that was weird. Because how do you think a caterpillar had never seen a butterfly, but George hadn't? So George wondered what this butterfly thing was, but he got on with his munching and didn't think too much about it. Until he began to realise that some of his aunties and his brothers and sisters began to kind of go away, and they began to weave around themselves this strange thing. And he asked what it was. They said, "It's a cocoon." "What's that for?" "Well, we go inside it and we stay inside it until we come out again." Now, George found this strange and he got a wee bit anxious about it. In fact, he was a wee bit scared as he thought about his auntie, especially his Aunt Jessie, who was actually not a very skinny auntie. And he wondered how she would get on inside this cocoon. How would she survive? Would she be happy? So he got more anxious, a wee bit more afraid as he thought about this. He thought, well, I hope I never go into a cocoon. I don't think I would cope inside a cocoon at all. But a strange thing happened to George, because without even thinking too much about it, he just found himself one day, almost instinctively, weaving this cocoon around about himself. And as he weaved it, he got a wee bit more tired, and he weaved this cocoon until he felt very sleepy, and he found himself in the dark, and he closed his eyes. He came to occasionally, just opened his eyes a wee bit, but nothing had happened, nothing had changed. He was still in the dark, and he would fall asleep again, until one day George found himself a bit more fidgety than usual, and he found himself stretching and pulling and beginning to kind of push a bit. And as he pushed, he found himself bursting through this cocoon and bursting into the sunshine as it broke through. And he looked and he felt different, he felt strange. And as he broke through the cocoon and got outside, he looked and he felt so different. And he stretched, and as he stretched, suddenly out from his side popped these big wings. And he couldn't believe it. I thought they looked really rather stunning and very colourful. And he pushed himself out, and as he pushed himself out the cocoon, he found that he was actually flying and floating on these wings. And he felt amazing. He never believed he could feel like this, having been in the cabbage patch and then having been inside this cocoon. And he floated around for a while, and as he floated, he came across and he landed on this little piece of grass right next to the riverside. And as he landed on the grass bent over, and he looked, and he could see his reflection in the water. He couldn't believe what he saw. This beautiful, coloured, it's a butterfly. I've become a butterfly. Although he had never seen one, he realised that's what he was. There are times just now for us, we feel a bit kind of locked inside and we can't get out, we can't see friends and family that we would love to see, and even our own families get a bit anxious. And we might not always act as we usually act, and we find ourselves stuck in, and sometimes a wee bit anxious, a wee bit afraid of what's going on round about. But we know and we hope that there'll come a time, not too distant future, when we'll be able to get outside again and see our friends and see family that we haven't seen. And we take what we've learned in these days and make sure that we value life, make the most of our lives once we are outside again, just like George. I hope you all stay safe, and if I might say, I hope you all stay blessed, and hope to see you again in the not too distant future. Bye for now.